All right, everyone. You remember Michael Wolff, that dude that was briefly relevant as like CNN, MSNBC, all these groups? They clamored to talk to him because they're like, oh, wow, he's exposing Trump is racist. Trump is, he screws things that move constantly. He's a liar. He's not talented. Oh, he's just a shit fuck, basically. I'll praise Michael Wolff and his expose. He got kicked off MSNBC the other day, of all places. Now think of it. MSNBC, sort of competitive with CNN to be the big left-leaning news outlet. MSNBC happens to be doing better than CNN, which is hilarious to me. And they're oddly enough less far left at times now, like they're less partisan than CNN. That was never the case until maybe the last couple of years. MSNBC's Mika actually kicked his ass off of the panel there for claiming that Nikki Haley, apparently in his book he claims that Nikki Haley is having an affair with Trump, or the other way around, whichever. It's funny how you always say that the dude's having an affair with the woman, whereas you generally wouldn't say like Nikki Haley is having an affair with Donald Trump, with the president. You would say Donald Trump is having an affair with Nikki Haley. It's almost sort of a subjugate role. When you really think about it, it's very, very funny how that works in our language. But he claimed that, and then on MSNBC, I guess he was sort of backtracking. He said, no, I'm not slandering Nikki Haley or anything. She's like, but bullshit, it's right in your book. Get the fuck off the panel. And she was actually, like, angry about it. It's at that point, when this sort of thing, it keeps happening for the last, like, month or so. More and more of the lamestream media pundits and outlets have been a little bit less receptive over time, like steadily less and less so, towards these people that are peddling pure speculation. Like, they're actually trying to fact check occasionally now. There's a reason for this. I think they see the writing on the wall with the FISA memo and other things. They realize Trump's going to stay there, and they're going to have to back off. They're going to have to actually treat him fairly, which they never wanted to do. And the reason that they never wanted to do it is economic. It's basically, hey, all of the companies and banks supported Clinton. They opposed Trump. Almost none of them supported him. We get money from them too. In some cases, they're partners of the parent companies of these networks. So we're not going to fool around with that. But now their parent companies are saying, well, the Democrats they can't get a fucking clue. And they can't catch a fucking break. They're sitting there worried about Trump having, 42% approval or something. Look at congressional approval. Approval of the Democratic Party, lowest since the Jimmy Carter era. And trust me, the Democrats would be so much better off if they hauled Jimmy Carter, liver spots and all, back into action and said, will you please lead the DNC for the next couple of years? Will you run for the presidency? Look at this fresh crop of morons. You can beat them all quite easily. 90-plus-year-old Jimmy Carter would be so much more fit for that position, would be so much more coherent, is so much more intelligent, and represents so much better a person in general than most of these other people. It almost makes you nostalgic for the oil shock days. Just tell the Iranians right now, sorry, the whole hostage thing sucked, but, ultimately, that's less bad than what we hear from the modern Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton calling a quarter of the population deplorable and irredeemable. Well, what a great strategy that was. And it was at that moment that people began losing faith in her campaign because she was a moron. Michael Wolff, who clearly doesn't know what he's talking about, his speculation is apparently this. Nikki Haley spends a lot of time on Air Force One, therefore she's banging Trump. So the fact that he works with Nikki Haley and, he's supposed to get updates and talk to her about diplomacy and everything else under the sun, that's not the reason why they spend time together. It couldn't be just that they have a good professional relationship and she doesn't grind his gears and he's not an asshole to her and they just sort of get along in a business sense. No, that couldn't possibly be the case. It has to be related to the fact that we all know that Trump is sexually voracious. He constantly gropes and molests and rapes and harasses every female that comes into contact with him. But there's the one-dimensionality. This is the same bullshit propaganda. There's no way that a person would consider that to be likely to be true in a vacuum, in the absence of any significant evidence, unless there was already a prevailing attempt to gain one-dimensionality for this figure that simply the mainstream media tends not to like. When MSNBC ejects someone for making a claim like that, you know that things are beginning to flip. It's the end of that paradigm, as I've told you about. Donald Trump will escape the Mueller probe unscathed, I believe. Donald Trump is going to take a big Donald dump on his enemies, probably in the next 24 hours with the FISA memo. And of course, it could turn out to be a total dud. And if it is, that would be almost more hilarious. Then I get to come out here and say, well, the Republicans did it again like they did with the ACA. They don't know what they're doing anymore. And the Democrats at this point. See, I can't lose because either way I can report on it because I'm not a partisan. That's why you shouldn't be a partisan. You enjoy every little in and out, all the propaganda, all the weird maneuvering, sort of the soap opera, WrestleMania-style politics. It's like fucking hilarious. It's great. It's entertaining. This is exactly, by the way, what Donald Trump is good at, which is why I generally choose to believe that he'll be fine. Because this is the sort of atmosphere he's always existed in throughout his life. So what's changed for him? He's in his element. He has a great time. When people say, well, Trump was enraged, no, I think you mean Trump acted enraged. When you say Trump was sad, I say, no, Trump wasn't fucking sad. He wakes up probably every morning with a shit-eating grin on his face at the way that things are going. They're going just fine by his standards. Don't worry about him. He can do his job. As for Michael Wolff, he gets himself ejected from MSNBC. Look, if MSNBC won't entertain your apparent tinfoil hat speculation in a book that supposedly was, it's going to be groundbreaking, lead to Trump's impeachment, it's going to show you how fucked up Trump really is. So basically, even MSNBC won't talk to him. That's the death knell of his very, very short relevancy in his political career. It's basically what he was doing. It's pure politics. He obviously doesn't like Trump anymore, or something like that. He decided to write a bunch of slander. But the problem is, if he just says, oh, well, I overheard, or oh, I speculate, he can't get sued for it. See, that's how people cover their asses when they're trying to slander a public figure at this point. And it happens to content creators on YouTube. It happens to bloggers and people who do like the Instagram thing and all that stuff. Oh yeah, I speculate that, or I heard that, or somebody who claims to be a lifelong friend says. And it's bullshit, basically. That's what it boils down to. Mika's getting her. Now, Mika's no, they're not exactly friendly towards Trump on the MSNBC news. It's not exactly a Trump outlet. It's a left-leaning outlet, and it used to be further left. Now it's sort of center-left, and CNN has sort of taken up the far-left side, and then CNN, of course, is... In order to try to gobble up the far left, they left an opening for MSNBC to swoop in, move a little bit further away from the partisan left, and now MSNBC is top dog when it comes to Fox and MSNBC, I believe, are the big competitors at this point for number one. And this is cable. So keep in mind that their pool of viewers is still shrinking. The only way they can grow is by cannibalizing another network. MSNBC gladly took a couple of nibbles out of CNN. Fox took a couple more when CNN attempted to swing. They had that one pundit on there. I can't remember his name, some rhino. And then people reacted badly, and I think that they kicked him back off, and that was very funny. I know, like the New York Times. They have one conservative columnist now. Conservative so-called, in name only. And everyone cried foul, oh, the New York Times is really going south now because they're not just all liberals. The funny thing is, New York Times, that'd be like Trump 101. He's a Manhattan liberal business magnate, dude. He's not a far right. He's not from the hayseed countryside thumping a Bible and talking about how wonderful it is to have a redneck. He's not a flannel shirt wearing dude. He wears a fucking $1 million suit. What are you talking about? And meanwhile, they're trying to cast him off as a serial womanizer who can't control himself. And that's really what it's about. Look, they know. The moniker of, hey, had affairs or likes sex too much, that no longer affects anyone within politics unless it's illicit in nature, if it was criminal in nature. Or if you cheated on your wife while she was battling cancer. Okay, that would be bad. Or it's a gay relationship and you've cast yourself off as really anti-gay, like you're an evangelical candidate. Yeah, that could be a problem, like Rick Santorum, gay transvestite orgy or something. That would be a problem. If it's illicit or it's really out there. Generally speaking, though, the idea of, he got some on the side years ago, it's not going to really, nobody gives a fuck. They're not moralists. They're doing they tried to do that to Bill Clinton. And even he escaped it back in the 90s, which were way more moralistic. Like, it was a big thing at the time. Oh, it's terrible. Our president had an affair. He got a blowjob from one of his interns. Now it's like, oh, the president's dicking around? Okay, have fun, Trump. Just make sure that you don't compromise any national secrets. Nobody really cares. But it's beyond that. They know that itself doesn't matter. It's trying to tie into the one-dimensionality. Here's the propaganda angle. The propaganda isn't Trump as a womanizer, because, look, anyone who cares already didn't vote for him. Trust me, after all the most sexist stuff, none of them voted for Trump. It's about casting him as having no self-control. That's really, it ties into the dementia and psychopath argument more than it does any singular argument about sex. You've got to keep this in mind. Look at their larger strategy and you can defeat them. You look at the larger strategy, if you can figure out what the larger pattern is within propaganda, it's more easily refuted. If you only focus on the illusion, the magician's moving this hand, look at the other one. If you focus on this hand, you miss the trick. If you're looking elsewhere and you're looking real closely, sometimes you can figure everything out. Then it's no longer magic, it's just an illusion. You know, but a little kid sitting there watching a magician pull a rabbit out of the hat, here's a dove, and here's, what's your card? I guessed it, haha. Oh, how'd you do that? Wow, this is so cool. Like, it's a mystery. Well, that's how propaganda operates upon that part of the human brain. What's not sure. The unsureness of things. It can cause people fear. It leads to fear-mongering propaganda. It can cause them confusion. It leads to all sorts of other propaganda. We must defeat it at all costs and free our minds really once and for all. We need to get off the chain, the very short leash of propaganda that really, it strangles people's worldview in ways that go way beyond politics. And the Republicans, by the way, not exonerating them, they love propaganda just as much as the Democrats. Just right now, they don't really have to use it. Right now, it's just a tidal wave, a deluge of propaganda aimed at Trump. The congressional Republicans are sitting there awestruck. They don't even know whose side they're on, I think, at this point. That's about all. Peace out.